Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Utica. I'm Carol Gable, president of the board, and I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. This is our first in-person service with our new minister, Reverend Karen Brammer. So exciting. And we have our wonderful piano player, Bob Ford, back with us today. So exciting. And I think there's about 20 or so people in the congregation and online, maybe 10, I'm not sure. Oh, okay, so we're all together today. It's wonderful. Whether you are visiting for the first time or have been a member for many years, you are welcome here. Whatever faith you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. We are invited to bring our whole selves to this worship service. Our doubts, as well as our convictions, the pain and joy we have known, our longing for connection and understanding, every part of you is welcome here. Our congregation acknowledges the land on which UU Utica is situated is the ancestral lands of the Oneida Nation, one of the original nations of the Haudenosaunee or Iroquois people. If you are visiting today for the first time, either in person or online, we are glad you have joined us. We would love to learn more about you and connect you with our newsletter if you like. There will be a link in the chat to a form that we hope any online visitors would fill out. And we hope those here will stay for informal conversation or online in breakout groups after the service. We do have a couple of announcements today. In preparation of our annual meeting to be held June 5th, we are holding a pre-annual meeting after church today. Melissa will share some thoughts on the budget, which we'll be presenting for approval at the annual meeting. And the board will be here to hear anything members of the congregation would like to share or give thoughts on they would like included in the annual meeting. It's just kind of a brief discussion in preparation for a robust and vibrant annual meeting as we plan for our new year with our new minister. The second announcement is that the Racial Justice Ministry group will be meeting online at Tuesday at 6 this week. Ken and Melissa will be leading us in that discussion as a part of our social justice work. And next Sunday, the service will be on Zoom only as we're invited to join the UU Church of Canton. They are having a guest minister, Reverend Sam Trumbore, thank you, who is the minister at the UU Church of Albany. And he'll be speaking about the evolution of beauty. After that, our services, we all plan to be in person, June, July, August, and we'll be going out back again like we did last summer as weather permits. So I think that's all the announcements, and now we will light our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this gift. But thank you, Melissa. So we'll have our next hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Oh, it's a delight to be with you. I said that I wanted to mention a few things about this hymn before we sing it. When I was in seminary, I had the opportunity, a real privilege, to interview Carolyn McDade, who's the writer of this, the composer of this piece. Carolyn McDade was talking to me about the circumstances under which she wrote this piece. She was, it was back in the 70s, I think, but that the important piece was that she had been an activist. She's a mother of several children and an activist to stop nuclear proliferation. And she said to me that one night she came home from a demonstration after many, many, many demonstrations, and she said, I felt like, and she described the kind of cardboard that when it's sitting in a hot attic for years on end, when you pick it up, it just falls apart into shreds and dust. And she said, that's how my soul felt. And she said, I didn't even turn on the lights in my living room. I just went over to the piano and sat down and I prayed, and Spirit of Life is what came out. So that's the home of this. That's the heart of this song. And so if you would join me, given all that's going on in the world, given what each of us personally may be struggling with or having to figure out how to adjust to, let this be a prayer for us. Rise if you're comfortable in body or spirit. Didn't know that one. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the land, in life the shade of justice. Rise, hold me close, we set you free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Would you sing it one more time and then hum it?
Come unto me.
Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the land, in life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
The call to worship this morning is words by Issei Barnwell. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, sons of great visions. We are sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, the builders of nations. We are the seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace in the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are one.
I can pretend to be big. That's why they keep the stool down there. Our Together Time reading is a book by a children's author, but not quite a children's book. It's a poetry anthology by Cynthia Rylant called God Got a Dog. And I'm going to read one selection. If I can find the page that I'm on. It would have been a good idea to put a bookmark in the page that, oh, I did. It was the back flap. This poem is called God Found God. It was the weirdest thing. God got all religious on herself. She was looking for something to do. So she went into this church in Boston, one of those churches from the 1800s that likes to consider itself old. This always gives God a good laugh. And she was all by herself, and it was quiet like you wouldn't believe. And up to the sky went these beautiful rafters, and all around her were these beautiful stained glass windows, and everybody was praying. All the people in the pictures, all the statues, all the angels in the room were praying. God knew better than to look at any of the crosses. She was still trying to figure that all out. But she knew that she had actually found a holy place. So she dropped a coin in the building fund box before she went away. And there's a picture here. I don't know if you can see it from there, but it is a depiction of God in a beautiful stained glass church. And that's from God Got a Dog by Cynthia Rylant.
That story reminds me of my first mentor. Some of you may know Bob Carnan, who died back in 1998, I think. He was the minister in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he told me a story once about a child who kept escaping from religious education. And this child was about 10. He told me that one Sunday before the service began, he could see in his peripheral vision this child who kept escaping from RE. And he went over and sat down next to this little guy and asked him what he was doing. And the little one pointed up at the chandelier. This is one of those really old, theoretically old, 1800s, very high ceilinged congregations. And it has a crystal chandelier. And the little guy pointed up there and he said, "Do you see the sun? Do you see how it comes off and goes all over the place?" And Bob said, "Yes." And he said, "That's God." Most of them pandemic. I was caring for my 92-year-old dad. We were intentionally isolated to protect him and myself as his protector, his only one caregiver. I know some of you continue to be in that position, cautious for your own well-being and for those whose immune systems would, if exposed, be less able to make it through COVID. Being with you here today, you can tell I'm out of practice. I have a strong sensation of crossing over out of extreme isolation into the joy of being together and the risk of being together. With excellent precautions of vaccines and boosters and limited numbers in this closed space, we are wise in how we come together, thanks to the team that is thinking constantly about our safety as we come together. Yet we take more risk being here than if we were staying at home. That is true. Coming together as spiritual community may be like that too. That is, we could choose to read books. We could stay alone, listen to books and speakers, listen to videos and speakers, go to workshops, work on our own spirituality separate from an ongoing committed group of people like the Unitarian Universalist Church of Utica. Coming together in community for many of us is automatically a joy because we feel more connection here than in most other places. And here there's another kind of risk, whether you're in person or on Zoom, because below the surface of our Unitarian Universalist similarities, and we do love to say we like how we think alike, which is actually not very true. We love to say these things, and we are really quite different from one another, and should be, because we value truth, we value growth, and so we take the risk of being uncomfortable around other people's ways of being spiritual. And this is why I share the ideas begun in 1980 with A History of Christian Spirituality by Urban Holmes. He wrote an analysis of Christian spirituality, which then Corinne Wares adapted for Christians and Jews in Discover Your Spiritual Type. I know that there are among us some who are grateful to be speaking the language of spirit, and others who might be noticing a bit of stress creeping up your back into your shoulders and neck, thinking, what is she assuming about spirituality? Because it may not be me. Spirituality is the process of exploring and practicing that which reveals our true cores. And spirituality pulls us beyond our individual cores and references something so much larger than ourselves, whether that is God, whether that is science, nature, art, spirit, relationships to other people or beings, or bringing about a more just and compassionate world, and many more that I have not mentioned. The exploration and practice of becoming who we are most deeply at our core and connecting that core with something way beyond ourselves is quite powerful. That's spirituality to me. Over time, as we come together again and again, we discover how we are alike, and if the differences are honored and nurtured, being together helps us deepen our spiritualities because we're different. The ways we are unalike is so interesting. We can deepen ourselves with the tension of opposite spiritual inclinations. We can deepen our natural inclinations and enrich them through exposure to spirituality that may be quite opposite. Now, I'm wondering if some of you may or may not have an order of service. It has on it a circle. It says spirituality wheel. It's an open circle with the words intellect/study. You go around the circle and it says faith in action. You could read that as social justice. You could read that as singing. Below that is relationship, the heart. And then around the circle is mystic and a receptivity to what is sacred around us. My apologies that you don't have them all in your hands, but you can pick some up on your way out, I believe. And on the table behind you are 3 sheets of paper that when you read each question, it gives a response that you can choose or write in a different one that will indicate whether you are more inclined towards intellectual, faith in action, relationship, or mystery, and a lot of things that are not written in there. It's a way for us to get language that helps us clarify who we are, go deeper, explore, and also be able to articulate how we are different from the others around us. If you're curious, you're welcome to pick up the questions I've copied from the book with permission. You can take those home and explore a bit about your spiritual inclinations, and you can use it in small groups or in larger groups if we want to do that as a congregation. The purpose is to become more open and inclusive in ourselves and as a congregation, more intentional in ourselves about how we process the differences we connect to or are repelled by, because polar opposites can be very difficult. So in the order of service, it doesn't have that intersecting axis that would make it quadrants in a circle. And I did that purposely because I don't think that we are delineated within ourselves neatly. We are somewhere in that circle or all over that circle, or we can create other intersecting circles. But the point is that we are interested in having some words that hint at why, for instance, we feel very comfortable in one part of the worship service and another part of the same service. We might feel as though we don't really belong here because there are people who look like they're enjoying themselves. We can learn about our own basic nature, and we can sometimes connect deeply to others as we can do in a long-term relationship with a congregation. That happens when we find similarities, and it happens when we find very different inclinations. But we Unitarian Universalists value truth, and so we must value difference. We value learning and growing. We also covenant to respect and honor the dignity of the spiritual inclinations of others. Connecting to others whose spirituality is quite different from our own, if we are open and willing, can change, can help our spirituality become more nuanced, less stark, and less reactive to other spiritualities. Now remember here, I'm not talking about religious beliefs. I'm talking about how our true nature functions within beliefs, within a system of beliefs. Every religious community will have within it those who are mystics and activists, those who are intellectuals and those who are heart-based, and how they explore and express their beliefs and relationships with what they understand as true and sacred. The same goes for congregations as a whole. Depending on the history of the congregation, the environment of support or hostility in the community, the congregation builds over time a comfort zone in that quadrant or somewhere on the circle. A congregation that is not aware and does not work on opening its practices can get fossilized as a spiritual type. There are UU congregations where you can feel the unrest and disapproval when spirituality is spoken of, because intellect is prized over all else. An unaware congregation risks becoming one whose justice work lacks the spiritual base and nuance to welcome spirits who are more politically conservative. A congregation could also become one that sits in a contemplative space, not venturing into intellectual, emotional, or social challenge. All of these different kinds of congregations exist. And all of them are extremes of spiritual process. Individual people in congregations do get stuck in extremes, with the result of a strong sense of self-satisfaction. I know who I am, but when other people, other seeking spirits come into contact, they may feel there is no room for my spirit here and simply walk away. That would be a sad thing for a Unitarian Universalist congregation. The language and structure of this spiritual wheel that I'm offering you is imperfect and it is incomplete. For instance, it doesn't include the embodiment of spirit. Where might that live for you yourself personally or for a congregation? How often does your congregation dance? There are dancing congregations. So this imperfect tool gives us words to reach out to each other and connect where we might be rejecting one another, or when we feel alienated from others who seem quite content when we are not. This is a beautiful thing to chat about with each other, to work with a small group, or to bring up in committees that you're working with. Just imagine that. In a group where you've got an agenda, what would it be like to get a sense of everyone present? How does this connect with your spirit? We don't generally do that. We're so busy. But it will help us assess how we're doing the work of our faith, the work of our church. You use value diversity of cultural and experience. So let us truly value diversity of spirit and spiritual inclinations, and let us open ourselves enough to learn from those whose spiritual process is different, even opposite our own. And let's us commit to showing up, to being present to each other in our differences, knowing that comfort is not the only purpose of a faith community, by far. Openness is deepening truth, and it may not be comfortable, but it is a powerful way to move forward in congregational life and in a way for each of us to live. And so may it be so for us all. Blessed be, and amen. The next hymn, We Are a Gentle, Angry People, I learned first when I was demonstrating for women's rights. Holly Neer was there. She's the composer of this. And we did not have a piano. We screeched and we moaned and we shouted and we sang beautifully together. So this is actually a song for the person who in this wheel of spirituality finds they are called to enact their spiritual truth in the world, often in the way of justice, and to be doing that in a faithful way is why it's called We Are a Gentle and an Angry People. And so if you would sing together 170, We Are Gentle, Angry People, and you can imagine yourself holding a sign or a candle in Buffalo, or you can imagine yourself standing on the Polish side of the border of Ukraine and welcoming people across, no matter what their color. But We Are a Gentle, Angry People is written to have faith in action in the public square. Please rise as you are able, embody your spirit.
We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
4 verses.
We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing
Please be seated.
Neighborhood around 2011. So our thoughts to Bill Gazzatano.
I'll light one final candle for any unspoken joys and concerns we have here today.
I just want to say thank you to Melissa, who's been juggling a great deal for this service. And I did some juggling myself in preparation for the service and left the reading I was going to do at home. But actually, it's a gift, because what I'd like to do is invite, if being under the night sky is comfortable to you, allow yourself to be there. If you're more comfortable under the bright sun or in the shade of a tree, be there. Or floating in water. Whether you experience the expansiveness of our universe as an intellectual wonder or a mystic experience or a relationship, or that you're going to fight like crazy to protect. In whatever way you experience this grandeur, let yourself be there. And while we're there in all this beauty and awesomeness, all this wonder, we also let in the sadnesses, the violations, the craziness of violence. We understand all of these as part of life, but they're so hard. And so we hold in one part of our mind and heart our connection to all that is, full of wonder and awe, and also the truth of how awful it can be. And so we come together claiming the possibility of holding both and claiming a commitment to becoming who we are at our core and to be in the world in a most loving way. May it be so for us all.
We will now have the offering. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. John's agreed to pass around the basket for us. Thank you, John. Now we'll extinguish our chalice, so please join in the words on the screen or in your order of service, I think, or you know them. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. I guess I'm decent.
In the words of Laura Lynn Bellamy, if here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If here you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. And if you can, go out and play and laugh and love this life that we've been given. May it be so for all. Go in peace.
Ah,